not going to make the 12:30 tour.
No, and you might have to.
We have to go in there and see.
Get a ticket first. Hold
on. You're
on.
definitely going to have to get a ticket. Hi.
I don't know if this is going to record or not right away because it's a new card going in. I think I got to format it first. All right. You ready?
Ready.
Okay, guys, if you'll give me attention, please. I want to welcome everyone to the Beckley Exhibition Coal Mine. My name is Mike. I'll be your tour guide. I've worked underground 43 years. Safety rules to go over. Don't raise your hands. Try to touch the roof. You could cut yourself on one of those plates.
Okay, can we have fun today?
Gotta overlook that. Good job. Don't put your hands on the rails. There's places where there's about that much clearance from the rail to the coal. No standing up unless I tell you. No smoking underground. Did they give y'all some work gloves? We got a little work to do before I bring y'all out. They didn't tell you that? I don't bring everybody out anyway most of the time. Now where you bought your ticket, there's a coal museum on the second floor. I don't know if you visited it yet. If you didn't, you can do it when we get out. When we get out, you go up this walkway right there. It'll take you to the coal camp. The superintendent's house. There's a miner's house. There's a school, church. There's the old bachelor shanty. You can go through the church, down the steps. There's a youth museum down there. Whole lot to see. Has anyone been here before? Oh yeah, we got a lady's been. This is the 7th time she's been here. I may let her do the tour for me. I don't know yet. But it's a good possibility of it. Now you can take all the pictures and videos you want to take. Don't lose anything in between the seats. If you do, it's going to end up on the mine floor underground. If that happens, let one of the tour guides know, and we'll go and find it for you. Then in about 3 days, you can get it back off eBay. Half price for what you paid for it. All right, guys? All right, we're going to be ready to go. I'll stop in a little ways, make sure everybody's comfortable. It's a little cool in there. Most people is headed south like this, so I don't know. You might get a little drop of cold water on your head. Other than that, you'll be okay. You already been underground, sir?
He just wanted to take a look.
Oh, okay. All right, guys, y'all ready to go?
Yeah.
Nothing. Just your selfies. Okay. Take pictures.
Yeah, but I can take pictures later off the video.
No, I know, but I didn't know if you were.
This mine's opened up in 1890. Produced coal for 20 years. They shut it down in 1910. 1959, the city of Beckley bought it. 1962, it was opened up to the public. All got smiles on their faces. This is going to be a good tour. Sometimes we'll get people in here and they're like this the whole time.
What are the metal plates in the wall?
I'm going to tell you all about them on that last stop. All right, sir? Yeah, I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, you guys in the back row, if you want to stand up, you can. Sit on the rail if you want to. Don't fall out. Now, when we get to the other side, these guys are going to have to turn around, okay? That's just the way it has to be. Now, before anyone can go underground, the mines has to be what we call firebossed by a certified person. Someone comes in early, checks for methane, carbon monoxide. We take a look at the roof and the rib to make sure everything's safe. We don't have to do that here because we don't produce coal, but we still do. Every morning, one of us comes in early and does those checks. It happened to be me today. We got a date boards throughout the mines. We'll put our date and initial on there. What I want to do is show y'all how they mined coal back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I wasn't around then, guys. Come on now. Give me a break. Today's coal miners are wearing a strap with a battery. It's mostly all remote control. This mines was a pick and shovel all the way. There was never any electrical equipment ever used in this mines. We're going to show you some on the other side, but it was never used here. This mines went under the city of Beckley for about 7 miles in diameter. Now they had to take a pick out this coal and shovel it on these cars. This coal seam right here, 28 inches high. That's what they were working in. They wasn't standing up like me. They were working in 28 inches of coal. I'll explain it to you more on the other side. As we go on up, the coal seam goes up to about 35 inches in places. The companies made the miners work 12-hour shifts. They demanded that they hand load 10 tons of coal in 12 hours. If they didn't do it, they could lose their job. A lot of times, they brought their teenage son in to help them get their quota. Once they loaded the car, they all had a piece of wood with a number on it. That number corresponded to their name outside. That's how they knew who to pay. Now, they were thieves back then, like they are today. A lot of times that car would go outside and somebody'd steal that wood and put it on their car. This poor guy wouldn't get paid. So finally, they put the wood in the car first. Then they loaded the car up. And when they unloaded it outside, they knew who to pay. I brought y'all in on a 1930 model locomotive right there. Now back in these days, there wasn't any electricity. How did they pull the cars out of the mines back in those days? Mules, horses, donkeys. You know they even used dogs to drag these cars outside? Has anyone seen the movie Coal Miner's Daughter? Yes. Oh, good. That's the way it was. Everybody lived in a coal camp. Every coal camp had a company store. You've heard the song, 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. That's the way it was. They bought all their food, clothing, medicine, tools. Everything had to be purchased at the company store. Even the houses they lived in were rented from the company store. If a coal miner got killed back in those days, and it happened often, the company gave the family 3 days to move out so another family could move in. Each week, the miner went to the company store and withdrew what's called script. It's like a debit card is today. They go in and say, well, I need $20 worth of script to do me for the week. If they went over that, they would deduct it from their pay. They were in bondage to the company store. Y'all remember Montgomery Wards? Yes. You got young guys here. They don't know about no Montgomery Wards. Now, Montgomery Wards back in the early 1950s, they would accept that script around here, but they only gave them half of what it was worth. Oh. So they were in bondage to the company store. Now, guys, I'll talk a little quick because I try to give you all the information I can while we're here. I've got an LED light on my cap. They didn't have LED lights back then. They started out with a teapot and a can of kerosene. They'd empty that kerosene into the teapot. It would fit on their cap. They would ignite it. It'd be an open flame. Now, what's going to happen if that flame happens to hit a pocket of methane? There's going to be a pop. A lot of methane, there's going to be an explosion. If they were lucky, this light would last about 3.5 hours, then they'd have to light it up again. Now guys, y'all not fussing at me. I had a lady earlier. You're gonna have to get that light out of my eye or take me out of here. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't know my light was bothering you. See, I got a bright light now. No what? I try to keep it on dim, but it was really bothering her. Now y'all be patient right here just a minute. I'm gonna try to put on a little show for you guys. Now the lady that's been on 7 tours, you can come on up here and do this if you want. Be patient just a minute. I'm gonna try to do this. Okay. After the teapot, they came out with what's called a carbide lamp. This is carbide, this is water. Now when you mix water with carbide, it forms like acetylene gas. Anybody ever welded in here? Mm-hmm. All right. Now you see that gas coming out of there? That's why I ran the wire through there. It was supposed to pop. I was going to see if I could scare one of them. It didn't pop, though. It's supposed to. All right, guys. Now, how would you like to work a 12-hour shift with a light like this? That's all they had. Now, each coal miner had to carry around a can of carbide with them. If something happens, the light went out, they'd have to relight it. If they were lucky, it lasted about 4 hours. From what I understand, if they ran out of water, they'd have to try to use their spit to light it up again. Now, like I said, if it happens to hit a pocket of methane, there's going to be a pop or an explosion. That's a pretty good flame this time of the day. I hate to blow it out. But I want to show everybody how dark it is underground.
Now, when you started, did you start with that or with batteries?
And I see, now there's my troublemaker right here. I wasn't here in 1890. Now, come on, give me a break. Look, we got a battery light over here. Now, this is way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
How late they use carbide lamps?
Huh?
How late did they use carbide
Well, it was
lamps?
about 1910, 1915, I think. Then they went to the battery light. I had a lady the other day ask me, how could I live this long working in these conditions? I went underground in 1970. Okay, I was 19. I worked underground over 43 years. Wow. But when I went under in 1970, it was tough, but nothing like what I'm showing y'all.
Right.
All right, guys, I want to show everybody how dark it is underground without any light at all. All right.
Ooh.
Now, over the years, my light went out plenty of times. Not this light. One time, my light went out for about 35 minutes. It took them about 35 minutes to find me. Now, I had one major problem, one major concern, and it wasn't going to the bathroom. I didn't have to have a light to go to the bathroom. But I had one big problem. Who can tell me what it was? Oh, I got some city slickers on here. California,
Going to the
Florida,
Which way is that one?
Chicago.
Couldn't find your lunch bags?
Well, no, I wasn't much worried about eating at the time. We
Animals?
always carried a little snack with us.
Snakes?
Right.
Well, you're getting close. There you go.
Rats.
I had to worry about a rat crawling on me.
Yeah.
And y'all came here to hear about those rats. I'm going to tell you all about them when we get to the other side over there.
Sarah, I think those are rat.
Now, this is called a flame safety lamp. About 1975, they did away with them because of that flame. Now, we used to use these to check for methane. You could put this lamp a foot from the top. If the top of that flame turns blue and starts to elongate, that means you're in methane gas. Another thing we would use it for is to check for what's called oxygen deficiency or low air. You'd be walking along, and it happened to me before. That flame start to go out or goes out, you don't have enough oxygen in front of you to survive.
Ooh.
It happened to me before. I'd be walking along, that flame would start to go out. I would back up into what we call the fresh air, and it would shoot back up again. They didn't have any way to check back in those days. Today, I've been retired 9 years. They wanted a tour guide, so here I am. Today they use a spotter. All you do is push a button. It'll give you a methane check and a carbon monoxide check. And they use anemometers now to check for air. Now they had one way to check for low air and methane back in those days. And this is what it was right here. Now what is that?
Canary.
That always amazes me. No one's heard of West Virginia, but they've heard about canaries in the coal mines.
Yeah.
Amazes me. They know it every time.
Yeah.
They say, West Virginia, what? Oh, yeah, canaries in the coal mine. Now, this one's had its better days, okay?
Oh.
Now, where did they buy the material to build the cage?
China.
Family store.
Company store.
Yeah.
Where'd they buy the canary?
Company store.
Company store.
Now, they'd go to work, they'd set the canary right here, they'd start picking and shoveling. If that canary is chirping and singing something like, Almost Heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain, everything's fine. If it's laying flat on its back with its legs up in the air, it's only a matter of time before it's going to get you. These canaries saved a lot of coal miners' lives. Did you know back in those days, they would send their 7 and 8-year-old son underground first with the canary to get an idea of how much oxygen or methane they had. Now, the reason they like the canaries, the breathing and the lungs of a canary are similar to a human. That's why they like to use a canary. Now, we got any mathematicians on here? No? Oh, come on, this is the easy one here. Now, back in those days, they made 20 cents a ton.
Oh, my.
They worked a 12-hour shift, hand-loaded 10 of those cars, and made how much?
$2.
$2. And now that says a ton car, but actually, in reality, they had sideboards on them, about up to here. Actually, there's a lot more coal that they had to put on there to get a ton. Today's coal miners make anywhere from $85, $95, maybe $100,000 a year average. All right, guys, now what we're going to do, everybody have a seat. We're going to go around to the other side. I'm going to show you the next step to coal mining.
Are there any active underground mines anymore, or is it all strip mines?
We got about 6 or 7 right around here, about 100 in West Virginia. But there's a big war on fossil fuels, and I'm not allowed to talk about politics.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about it outside, we can. But yeah, I got 2 nephews that work right near here today. I'll tell you more about it on the other side. Now I'm going to show you the next step to coal mining. They're still going to be using a pick, but they're going to be doing one thing different. Watch your heads. Watch out for the little bat that flies around. And we're going to go to the other side of it.
All these slips that went,
I can't believe that guy thought I didn't have a car guy lamp when I was little. I must look older than I am, I
like
guess.
how they run these.
Usually right here, I have to apologize because we got both cars loaded and everybody can't see. I don't have to do that today. We've only got one car loaded. I like it like this, but they don't like it like this outside, believe me. They want both cars loaded, right? Okay, now they were picking the coal down at our first stop. Now they're still using the pick, but they're doing something different. Instead of picking down like this, they're laying on their side and they're going in, 3 feet in and all the way across. And that coal is hard. Now that's called an undercut. Now why would they be undercutting the coal? What are they going to do different?
Drill and blast?
Very good. It's got to have a place to fall. That's why they blast it. After they drilled the hole, the guy wanted me to use this. I'm going to try to use this. This might mess up my rhythm. If it does, I'm going to quit. Now, after they drilled the holes, they used that old breast auger right there. They drilled 3 holes. That's enough of this. I don't do this anymore. After that, they reached in their pocket and they got out their little balls of black powder with their fuses, which they purchased at the company store. They'd shove the black powder in the holes. The fuse wires would be hanging down. After that, back in those days, they had to go look for dirt and mud. Anything they could find to shove in behind that powder to make it tight. They call it tamping it up. Now, why would you do that?
Keep the blast in.
That's right. If they didn't do it, the shot would go through the holes and the coal wouldn't fall down. After that, there'd be a cable going around the corner with a battery. They'd wire it up, and then they'd scream real loud, just like they do today. Fire, fire, fire in the hole. That gives everybody a warning there's going to be a blast. They blast the coal down. The old mule shoves the car up here, and they load all the coal up. Now you see this? I'm going to use it for this. Now you see this? That's rock. They would blast that rock down at night if the animals didn't have enough room to work.
Wow.
They didn't care about the coal miner. If that animal didn't have enough height, they'd blast the rock down at night and get it out of the way. In other words, if the coal seam wasn't high enough, and it's not high enough right there, you can see. This is their actual work areas, by the way. Now, I happen to be a certified shop fireman. I have blown up a lot of stuff in 43 years, believe me. I'm not a terrorist, okay? But I've blown up like a roof over your heads for big equipment to go underground. We didn't have to go look for dirt and mud. We used these little sticks of clay. They're called clay dummies. You stick them in a hole and tap it up. The reason we call them dummies is because you got to be a dummy to go in that hole, knowing you're going to get blown up. Now that says electric punching machine. Actually, it was compressed air. It works like a jackhammer. The guy invented that. He thought he could do the undercut with it. It didn't work. It took 2 or 3 men to drag it around. The wheels got stuck in the mud every 2 or 3 inches, so that's where they left it. Now let's go down here and see my buddy Don Corleone down here. After this stop, everybody will be able to stand up in that back road and everybody will get to see a whole lot better. Now right here, they were picking the coal down. Now they're blasting it down, but they're still shoveling. Shoveling days are finally over. This is a 1929 model loading machine, electric, never used here. They'd blast the coal down, they'd bring the machine up. Once the coal got right there, they turn these things on. They're called gathering arms. They go just like this. What it does, it pulls the coal right into here. Now what's underneath that coal right there? Conveyor chain. They turn that conveyor chain on, load that car up in about a minute. Shoveling days are finally over. They still use this type of equipment in one mines in Kentucky. Not quite this old, but this type. Today's machines cut and load the coal all up at the same time. Now this is called a scoop. Guy named Bill built that in his garage in 1963. He never got a patent on it. The coal companies copied his idea and made millions. Today's scoops are twice as wide, and a lot of those are remote control. This is hydraulic. That's called a scoop bucket. It'd go up and down. You could use it to push coal, clean the roadways. If you needed to pull something, you tell the scoop man. We call it, coal miners are always pulling something. Coal miners tear up a lot of stuff, believe me. Supplies, if you needed supplies, you tell the scoop man. We called him the gopher. He'd be the one to go for whatever you needed. Great piece of machinery, but they never got a patent on it.
But you still had to drill and blast to break it up?
With this machine, yeah, that's called conventional mining. Yeah, that's a loading machine. It'll load it, but it won't cut it. Now,
What about this one over here?
that's just a scoop. It just cleans stuff and get it out of the way. Now, today's machines have what we call ripper heads on them. There's a picture of them outside. They'll cut the coal down and load it all up. It's like a machine with a ripper head on it connected to that, all at one time. I'm gonna explain more to you right now. Before we're going. We're gonna be here a while, guys. So you guys in the back row, y'all can stand up if you want to. Just don't bump your heads. Y'all can stand up back there if you want to. My light bothers. Let me know if my light bothers you, okay? Now watch you bump your head. I bet you got a hard head, but that roof's harder than your head. You'll be all right, okay?
I'll make it.
All right, guys. Now back there, they were laying on their side doing the undercut. Finally, they invented a cutting machine that looks like a chainsaw turned over on its side. It's got those sharp bits on it. It would swivel. They'd turn it on. They could do that undercut in about a minute. Shoveling days are finally over. That breast auger, now they got a hydraulic drill. Drill a hole real quick. All right? Somebody tell me what this looks like.
Skateboard.
Very good. Usually when we got kids on here, I'm trying to get this light so I don't make y'all mad at me. If we got little kids on here, I'll say, now everybody, let the little kids tell me what it is. Every time an adult will blurt out the answer. They never let the kid tell it. This is skateboard, scooter. When I first went underground, my boss was riding around on one of these. He had a big cigarette sticking out of his mouth. There wasn't any rules or laws back then. If you went out and got back in, fine. They didn't really care. Never got a patent on it. 1970, he was riding around on it. Now, they were obsolete in 1970, but he liked his so well, he kept using it. How does it work? You just put it on the track right here. If you want to go somewhere, you put your knee right here and start pushing, just like this. That was a modern way of transportation. If you happen to go downhill, you could drift a little bit. All right, guys. Now I want everybody to feel safe right here, okay? Over your heads is 125 feet of mountain. If I drill a hole right here, we'd go up 125 feet. We'd be outside. Now those things over your heads, those are called roof bolts. Those roof bolts is what's keeping the rock from falling on your heads. Now, I've put up thousands of roof bolts in my life. Not with this machine. That's about a 1930 model. Never used here. Back then, only one man could operate it. He had to get down on his knees and use those hydraulic levers. Today's machines are 4 times wider than this, and you've got a man on both sides of the machine drilling the holes to install those roof bolts. But the idea is the same. You had to have a piece of drill steel with a sharp bit on it. You put it right there, that's called a drill head. They used the levers, they raised it up to here. There's another lever they'd use to let it cut. Now this is rock up here. This is what it looks like when you're drilling this rock to install those roof bolts. Now tell me something. Where's all that rock dust going?
Right on.
On your,
In your nose, down your throat, in your lungs. That's why we all got black lung. Today's machines have blower motors on them. When you're drilling, those motors are sucking that rock dust through here, into a hose, into the machine. All you have to do is empty out the dust boxes. But it's still a dirty, dangerous, and most important job in the mines. Now this is what's over your heads right here. That's a 4-foot glue bolt. They make them a lot longer. They make them shorter. This is what they use today. After you drill the hole, you have to get a stick of glue. Just put the glue up in the hole with the bolt like that. Don't let the machine push it all the way up. This would fit over here. Let the machine push it up to right here, and then let the machine spin it. You spin it for about 3 seconds. What happens to that glue?
Hard.
It breaks open, it gets hard, it flows down this bolt. It goes up into those cracks and connects all that loose rock together. All you have to do is spin it for about 3 seconds. When I first went underground, right before I retired, they asked me if I would train these young roof bolt operators how to put up a bolt. They come to work, they're mad at their girlfriend before they ever get there. They didn't get what they wanted for lunch. Now you only spin it for about 3 seconds. Well, they're spinning away complaining. She broke up with me last night. I don't know what I'm going to do. My life is over now. They spin it too long. The glue gets hard and sets up. You can't push the bolt up in the hole. You got this thing hanging down. You know what we call these? Helicopters. You got to tell everybody, watch your head. There's some helicopters over here. I've hit my head on them. It'll knock your cap off. It'll cut you. You have to bring somebody in with the torch to cut them out. Coal miners got a nickname for everything. Now I had a lady tell me a dinner plate. Come on now, who's going to eat off of that thing, right? What does that look like? I had a person tell me a baseball diamond. Well, it does kind of look like that too. Now you see these little square plates? You see how rusty and old they are? Now you see the newer ones? During COVID, they brought a crew in here and they put up a lot of new roof bolts everywhere to make it safer. We call this a pizza pan. You drill your hole, you drop your pan down. This is what it sounds like when you're done, just like this. And then it's there to stay. Now, this machine is so old, it only drills straight up. That's all it'll do. Y'all heard that song, To the Left, To the Left?
Yeah.
I thought I was too old to know that song, didn't I? Huh? The new machines drill to the left. They drill to the right. And they drill straight up. That's why you see these plates and pizza pans everywhere. When they came in during COVID, they do this. That's why you see all this. Now that's called a brow. That will roll over on you and kill you quicker than this roof will. They didn't have any way to support them back then. They just put a piece of wood under there and hope for the best. Right before I retired, our mechanic was working on a piece of the machinery. He was between the machine and the rib over there. One of those brows rolled over on him and killed him. I could give you a lot of horror stories over 43 years, believe me. All right, guys. This is called a kettle bottom. Another name for that is a widow maker. If it falls on you, you've had it. That weighs about 280 pounds. You see how slick it is? They're in the roof everywhere. They'll fall out without warning. You can't drill a hole in them and put up one of these bolts, they fall out. You have to drill to the side and put a strap under them. If we go out this way, I'll show you some straps out there. All right, now who can tell me what is that? What exactly is that?
Petrified tree.
Now, he's naturally smart or he's been to the coal museum, one or the other. Petrified tree stump. He's right. What is coal? Coal is vegetation that's been under water and pressure for thousands of years, and it turns into coal. That's why you can find fossils in the mines of little birds and ferns. We got mushrooms growing around here. Where you're sitting at used to be vegetation, and it turned into coal. What's this?
Lunch bucket.
Lunch bucket. What else?
Coal bucket.
Water bucket.
Coal miners like to be sophisticated.
I share.
Dinner bucket.
Who said that? Dinner bucket. Who said that?
Us.
Y'all got anybody that worked in the mines?
My dad and I worked on Joey mining equipment too.
See, anytime you got somebody that worked in the mines or know somebody, they know what to call this. We like to be sophisticated. This is a dinner bucket. Take the top off. What's this?
5 minutes.
Who said that? All right. Dessert tray, that's right. Coal miners eat their dessert first. We don't know if we're going to get out of here or not. We might as well get all that sugar we can, right? If you go to work and there's no cake or pie, you got a problem at the house. She don't care enough about you to even give you a dessert. What about this? Main course. Back in those days, they didn't have any way to heat up their food. Today's coal miners has a picnic table, coffee pot, microwave. They get 30 minutes for lunch. They come down, take a sip of coffee, read the headlines. That's enough to make anybody want to go back to work, right? I'm not allowed to talk about politics.
Oh, God.
What's this?
Ice
Hot
bucket.
water.
Water. Now, back in those days, they had to bring their own water. They filled it up to about right here. Now, let's pretend we're back in the late 1800s. This is their dinner hole. The poor guy has been shoveling coal for 6 hours. Now, remember, he's not standing up like me. He's working in that coal seam right there. He's about this high up. He crawls down here to get a drink of water. No water. Somebody stole his water.
Oh.
He went home and told his wife, "Honey, I'm so thirsty." She said, "What's the matter with you today?" He said, "They stole my water again." She got angry. She said, "How many times do I have to tell you? Put something in that water to keep those guys from stealing." And finally, that's what the old timers did. They put their old choppers in there. They didn't have to worry about anybody stealing their water anymore. Now that's a true story. When I was real little, I'd go and spend a weekend at my grandfather's house. My grandfather was a coal miner. My dad never went underground. My grandfather came over on a boat from Italy. My dad ran a grocery store. I'd go up there, my grandfather would give me chores to do. I remember every Friday night at 9 o'clock, Gunsmoke came on. And it still comes on every night around here about 9 o'clock. I'd look in the bucket to get me a snack. His teeth were in there. I believe he soaked them in there all night. All right, any mines I ever worked at has rats. We don't have rats here because we don't produce coal. If we produce coal, there'd be noise and food. The rats would come, the miners would feed them. The rat is a friend to the coal miner, just like that what I showed y'all over there. Canary. They have a keen sense of hearing and smell, and they're smart. I have seen these rats take their tail and lift the lid right off that dinner bucket. Many times I'd be having my lunch, I'd see a rat crawl by dragging a sandwich or a little Debbie cake. They love those little Debbie cakes. Sometimes they'll look over at you like, "That's right, what are you going to do about it?" Nothing. You see a bunch of rats take off running toward the outside, like in that movie Titanic. There's something going on. There's either smoke on the way, the roof could be bad. The rats always knew. That's why the miners took care of it. All right, guys, they gave me a piece of fudge out there about that big, so I'm just now getting wound up. Are y'all ready? Right here. That's called a supplementary roof jack. Now, we used to put these up in places where you couldn't put up these roof bolts. That thing will hold an incredible amount of weight. I don't have time to explain the different types of coal mining. Now, as far as this mine goes, they just went up, they went in so many feet, they turned left and they turned right. If you go that way far enough, you're gonna cut into another place just like you're in right here. That's called room and pillar mining. Now those are pillars of coal you see everywhere. You see they're white. That's rock dust on that coal. If rock dust keeps that fine coal dust from blowing up. About 12 years ago, there was a mine explosion near here. 29 miners got killed. I knew one of the guys. What happened? They didn't have enough rock dust applied to the coal, and the fine coal dust blew up. But if you took all these pillars of coal out of here, this whole mountain would fall in on us. Those roof bolts are only protecting you from the little stuff. It's the coal that's keeping the mountain from falling on our heads. Now there's one type of mining which is called longwall mining. That's where you take all the coal. They didn't have that technology back then. You take all the coal, you don't leave anything. As you're advancing, the roof is continually falling behind you at all times. When that's happened, I've seen these jacks bend over, crack, and break. I've seen so much pressure before a major roof fall, these plates will ping out. They'll go ping, and they'll shoot out just like a shotgun before the mountain falls in. A lot of guys got killed from those flying plates. These timbers you see, they break just like toothpicks when this mountain's ready to come in. Now we're in the drift mines. We went straight in. The slope mines, where you go in like this. Then there's shaft mines. I've worked in a shaft mine where 30 men get on an elevator and go straight down 700 feet. Down there, the methane is really hot. You have to have a lot of ventilation to keep that methane swept away. Now this is the old mine phone we used to use. Come in outside, we need help. Well, you might get an answer, you might not. All you have is a wire going from here to the outside. If a little piece of rock or something falls, you don't have any communication. Back in the old days, we'd rub grease all over here. They go to make a phone call, they get an earful of grease. Just an old joke we used to play. I believe he knows what I'm talking about. Now I've got 2 nephews that work underground right near here today. Guess what they got underground now for communication?
Cell phone.
Wi-Fi stations every so many feet. Not all the mines yet. They got these specialized phones. They try to text their girlfriend, but it don't work. They got Wi-Fi underground. Does anybody have a question?
Where we're from, they did copper mining, and back in the 1800s, they ate pasties. Did miners here eat those back in the day?
Eat what?
Pasties?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. So they did.
It's like
It's your whole meal in a piece of dough. It was meat and potatoes and vegetables, and it would keep warm. It would keep everything warm in the bucket.
That's a hobo. One time I've always heard it called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never heard of that before.
All right.
But like I say, I wasn't here back in 1890.
Well, no.
Yeah. Now, we just bring our sandwich and chips when I was underground.
Question.
Yes.
So your current coal miners can make up to 100,000 a year?
Well, the electricians and the mechanics, and some machine operators make a little more than that.
That's not a bad wage.
No, it's not, but it's still a very dangerous job.
yeah.
Hard
It's
work.
not nothing like it. Well, when I went underground, it was bad, but nothing like what I've showed y'all here. This is the worst of the worst right here. And I've had people on my tour that their great grandfather was one of those mule drivers that drove those mules back in those days.
Your grandfather had black lung?
My grandfather? Yes. I have black lung.
What?
Well, I do. The reason I'm moving around as good as I am, I try to stay active and keep my lungs expanded. Y'all want to hear a little story about it? I'll tell you.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
I applied for federal black lung. I got state black lung years ago. That's where they just pay you so much money and they're done with you. Well, federal, you get a check each month. I filed for federal black lung. The Department of Labor said that I had it. Okay? They started paying me. They paid me for about 2 years. It went in front of a certain law judge who was kind of against coal mining a little bit or whatever. Anyway, they said that my lungs weren't in bad enough shape to have it. And I had these spots. That's called complicated black lung. She said they wasn't quite connected enough yet or something.
Oh, gee.
So it went back in front of another law judge on July the 18th. And they told me it might take 6 months to a year before I can find out. But my lawyers are confident that I will win. But the truth of the matter is, the coal companies want you to die before you get it. That's what they want you to do. I know a lot of coal miners that got it, and some of them are on their deathbed when they got it. But I try to stay active and keep my lungs expanded. Now, if I sit home on a couch and watch guns smoke for about 3 nights in a row and laying on the couch, then I'll start having some breathing problems. As long as I'm active, I do fine.
Question.
Yes.
How do they make sure there's enough rock dust covering the coal?
Just as long as you just make it white like that.
Do you blow it on, paint it on, push
You know
it on?
what? That is a very good question. Now, that's a rock dust machine right there. They were still using those, well, about the time when I retired. You put the rock dust in that thing, that's called a hopper. There would be a hose sticking out right here. It would hook onto that orange scoop I showed you on the other side. You tell the scoop man to turn it on with the hydraulics, and you could rock dust the place in a matter of seconds. Now today they got these big things, they're called Bantam dusters. They're bigger than this whole area right here. They rock dust the whole mines in no time. When I went underground in 1970, we all had to carry a 50-pound bag of rock dust with us. After we got the cut of coal out, we had to spread it by hand on the ground, on the rib, and on the roof. Any more questions? Well, nobody wants to know where they went to the bathroom back in those days, I guess. One more thing and we'll go. Where'd they go to the bathroom? Back in those days, they went wherever they could. I worked in the mines. We were 13 miles underground. It took an hour and 10 minutes to get to work one way on modern track. Today's coal miners have these big fans blowing air underground. It's called intake air, about 180,000 cubic feet of air per minute. Almost blow your head off. Once that air gets up there to where the men are working, it splits. Some will go way over there and down that left return and back outside. Some of the air will split, go way over there and down that right return and back outside. You got a continuous flow of air. Intake, where the men are working, and then return air back outside. Where would you go to the bathroom?
Oh, yeah.
That man there knows. In a return, the air's hitting you in the face all the time. Every now and then you'll get a red hat trainee, don't know any better. He'll go in the intake. Then the men have to suffer all day long. Believe me, when he gets outside, he's going to suffer. All right, guys. They hadn't called to tell me it's raining or not. I'll check. If it's raining, we're going to go out this way. But if not, I'm going to take you all the way around the mountain by the pool and the water slide. As soon as we get outside, make sure you turn around and see where we're coming out from, okay? I appreciate you guys coming. It's been my pleasure to be y'all's guide today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it raining outside?
Hey, Mike, it's up. At present time, it's not raining, track's a little wet, but it's not raining.
Oh, good.
All right, thank you.
Just to have some rain out there. Mary Lou's gonna be wet.
If we get a big major rain, storm, then don't fuss at me, all right? about sliding too much, did you? I was kind of worried there for a minute. I'll open the gates for you. I'm sorry you ran.